Welcome back to the Stevens Playbook. I'm Michael,
And I'm Matt.
and today is still January
21st.
Thank
Episode 21. It's very easy now for the rest of the month.
you. Episode 21 on the 21st. Welcome. What do you got?
Grinding.
All
Non-stop
day,
grinding.
every day.
That's actually there's not much to talk about. There's moments where nothing happens, and then there's moments where everything happens at once. And we have a lot of things in the works that is going to happen soon. But as far as today goes, nothing.
Well, it's never nothing. A lot of thought, a lot of thinking. But I was driving home today, and I'm always listening to something, a podcast or whatever. This time, I had my notes app open, and as good nuggets were coming, I was speaking them into the notes app, which I haven't done before. I don't know why I didn't think about doing that before, because I was like, well, I'm not gonna write in my notebook and drive because that's crazy. I'm trying to live. But I spoke them into my phone, and so I got some good stuff. This is my second time listening to the Founders Potty Waddy podcast, whatever you want to call it. Listening to that one. So this is my second time listening to it, and it was with Brad Jacobs, who I didn't even know who that was before, but he wrote a book, which I haven't read, but the book's called How to Make a Few $1 Billion, and the title was just caught my attention because I would like to make a few $1 billion here and there.
Just chump change. A few billion. No big deal.
Just whenever. So going through that, I hadn't even finished it yet, but I have so many notes, and I'm like 30 minutes into the video. So the first topic that he talked about was be a sponge, and he goes into detail about all these examples of people that he's met, different ways that people are described, and basically they're always learning, which I like to think that I'm always trying to learn, or maybe some people like to learn, but they're kind of more quiet about it, but always need to learn. Something he said that kind of stuck out to me was champions start acting like champions before they become champions. And that was kind of interesting to think. So right now is the time to start acting like champion. Talking to you and myself.
Or keep on acting like a champion.
Well, yeah. But if you're not already, now's the time. Yeah. He talked about setting yourself up to become the most informed person in your organization. And he was saying that, he gave an example. He was saying, if you're new to a company, best thing you can do is learn everything you can and become smarter about what's going on than the people that are managing you or who own the company, really, so that you'll be primed to take over when the opportunity comes.
That's a never endless cycle, though, because there's also advice out there that says never be the smartest one in the room. Always seek to find people that are smarter so it can elevate you up higher.
Right.
So there you go in a constant cycle, vicious cycle right there.
Or I guess do seek to be the smartest in the room and then find someone else.
Yeah, and then say, I'm better than you. Time to move on. Maybe not those words.
I don't know, never be the smartest in the room kind of limits, I feel like. I feel like this puts a ceiling on it when your goal should be to be the smartest.
Well, that's the whole point, though. In order to be the smartest, you have to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, which is the whole point of never being the smartest in the room.
No, I get it. I'm just trying to think of because it sounds limiting, just the thought of it. But no, I get the whole point. Put people around you. I saw an Instagram post that was reposted by someone else the other day. It said, you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you.
Oh yeah,
That's
good.
It was kind of cool. I was like, it kind of messed with my head for a second when I was thinking about it. But you can't change the people around you, so find different people. Put people around you who are going to push you forward.
I've heard that quote before. That's a good quote.
Yeah, so I like that one. Yeah, he said it's not a measure of skill or intelligence, it's a measure of effort. So you may think like, oh man, I'm not gonna be the best at whatever because I wasn't born with the skill. But really, it's not about the skill that you're born with. It's how much time you're going to put in to develop the skill and get better because you can do anything that you put your mind to. There are people born with abilities, but what was it? Effort beats talent. Or no, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That's another quote. I like that one.
Ooh, there's this. I don't know how to describe it or who wrote it now, but they talked about the three different levels of talent versus effort, and it's kind of counterintuitive a little bit, but it shows like a big box for people that have like a lot of talent, and then for people that just have like a little bit of talent or medium talent, they have a smaller box, and then people that don't really have much talent at all have like a tinier box. And there's certain things that you can't control in life, and but it talks about how to fill your effort to whatever you're at, whichever box that you're in, to fill it to the best of your ability for the effort. Because there's some things you just can't be as good. You could never be like five, I'm 6 foot on my tippy toes. We'll just say that 6 foot on my tippy toes. But I can never be like up in like 6 foot 8 or something and play basketball to the ability of other people. No matter how much I practice, there's certain things that are out of my control, but I can go up to that certain level of like I can still practice up to the very top. And for the most part, people that don't like people that have the talent, they have much more room to grow, but they don't always take advantage of that because it's been given so much earlier on in their lives that they just never learned the skill to really grab that extra effort. It was really interesting. I'd have to maybe another podcast talk about it.
Yeah. So that was the first point in his podcast that I was listening to. It's actually, I think it's one of about seven so far. The next one, he said he was talking about the importance of clear thinking and being easy to understand and easy to interface with. He mentioned, and I think he's still talking about the same guy who he was talking about the whole time on his podcast, but he mentioned that stories of other very successful people, they sit down with this guy and they're like, wow, that was the most informative conversation that I had. I felt like I learned something. And that was just because the ways that he communicates were so clear and very easy to understand. And he was just an easy person to interface with. And so this is important when you're looking into your own organization. So when we build up, in order to find people, once we get people in here, we want them to be on the same page. And so he says clarity propels an organization. And he also says leader has to have the vision, and the leader has to get the very best people. So if you don't have the vision, you can't communicate it. So first up, you got to know where you're going, and then you got to tell people where you're going. And those people need to understand this is where we're going so that they can get on board, hop on the train, and y'all can all end up in the North Pole with the Polar Express. Just say yes.
Yeah,
Say
Polar Express.
so. All aboard. But yeah, next thing he says is, well, it's the same topic, but he says leader has to get the very best people. Um, so yeah, I'll just skip that part. Not skipping it, but I just said that. You have to be able to explain your vision so that people can hop on the train and get there.
Polar Express train.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm working on being easy to understand and interface with here. Explaining this. Let's see, what else he say? This is in the same point, but it's kind of a separate topic. He says, narrow your focus to your most important dreams and tune out everything else. So if you know I want to be the best basketball player ever, you know you have a long way to go, then what are you doing watching movies every weekend. At some point, relaxing, letting yourself loose is a good thing. It promotes like creativity, thoughts to flow. You gotta open up what you're doing, but at the same time, what's most important to you?
Wasn't there, I think the author was Tim Grover that wrote the book Winning.
I love that guy.
Tim Grover wrote the book Winning, and it's a long time ago, but I'm pretty sure like he coached was it Michael Jordan?
I think it was Kobe.
It was a very famous basketball player.
It could have been. Now I'm questioning which one it was.
Yeah,
It was one of those two. Maybe it was Michael
I think it
Jordan,
was
and
Michael
then
Jordan.
Kobe learned from Michael.
Yeah, I think it was Michael Jordan.
Maybe.
Anyways, he was talking about how like he would do practice and then he would do extra practice, and that was tying back with what you said of just, don't sit down and watch TV or something. Like if it's a number one priority, like you'll make it the number one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and everybody likes to say, I don't have time because I got all these responsibilities, whatever it may be, however valid those responsibilities are. But another quote, if it's important to you, you'll make time. So if it is truly important, you'll make time. You'll find a gap somewhere, whether it's when you're eating lunch, maybe it's you got to wake up 30 minutes earlier, um, maybe move closer to work so you'd have less of a commute, whatever it is, you'll figure it out to make time. So that's interesting. And yeah, that was the second point in his podcast. The next one he talked about is, and this kind of goes back to what I said before, but the most important thing a CEO does is recruit superlative people. So people are the driving factor for the business. He says an empty seat is less damaging than a poor fit. So it's better to leave a seat empty than to hire the wrong person. He goes more in depth on it, and he says slightly understaffed teams are more productive and spend less time doing busy work too. He said it's nearly impossible to overpay for talent. And so what he was saying was that basically he would pay whatever price. What you can't put a price tag on a Steve Jobs or a Jeff Bezos, or any leader within your company if they're going to provide. Basically, they're going to get the mission done. You can't put a price tag on that.
Oh, we got two in one day.
I had something in my head that I just let slip. Can't overpay for talent. Can't put a price tag. Oh yeah, he was talking about hiring the second best and how that could cost millions. Hiring the second best applicant because just he's talking about not hiring the best, which should be your goal as a CEO. So that was one of the big lessons, takeaways from him and his business, and that he was sharing.
Who's this guy again?
Honestly, I've never heard his name until I listened to it, but his name was Brad Jacobs, and I need to do some more uncovering on his story because this is the first I'm hearing of him. But he says if you give a good idea to a mediocre team, they'll screw it up. If you give a mediocre idea to a brilliant team, they'll fix it and make it better. And that was along the same lines. Hire the right people.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking about how his hiring process is the majority of the work that he does because of how important it is to him. Next thing he was talking about trends. He said you can mess up a lot of things in business and still be okay as long as you get the big trend right. And so it's super important for us right now. Like, where do we see the industry going and how can we fit in and make it get there? Or maybe we're trying to uncover the trend and be the first one there, start the trend. But setting the path and being on the right path is extremely important. He talked about I don't remember the guy's name. He owned chariot company, basically like horse-drawn chariots. Um, Owned a manufacturer for that, and this is before the automobile was created. And then the automobile came around, and he had to switch. He couldn't just keep. It doesn't matter how good his team is. You're not staying in that horse-drawn chariot manufacturer company. You're switching to automotives because you know that's where it's going. And if you look today, who are you going to buy a horse-drawn chariot from? Nobody, because nobody wants it. Zero demand. Maybe there's one demand.
Chariot Valet.
There might be.
Chevrolet Chariot
Okay,
Valet.
there's probably somebody, and they might be listening or will listen in the future, who's like, I would buy a chariot. Okay, there's your
Yeah,
one demand. You're
that
the
would be
one
pretty
guy.
cool to have a chariot. Strap it behind your car.
I don't have a horse though.
You have horsepower though.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm getting a chariot.
Yeah.
I'm not actually getting one. But yeah, so that's the point. Like, it's important to understand where the market's going, because if there's no market, your business is kind of done.
Good thing where we're going right now, there seems to be a good market for fitness related things.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, it's still very popular.
I think it's actually growing.
Yeah.
Like the younger generation, I think is doing much better as far as like putting their intent to get better, stronger. A lot of it is tied to aesthetic and their looks, but I think the intent is there.
I wonder if that's from like just being online more and
Mm,
seeing the idols of people.
comparing yourself,
Yeah, you're literally comparing yourself to a lot more people now.
the hidden positives in the negatives.
Yeah.
That's deep. Yeah, that probably, I mean, I think that has a lot to do with it, because before, when it wasn't like mainstream, you don't see all these fitness influencers. You just see what you have growing up. And if you don't have anyone like who's inspiring in school, or a father figure that is like super fit, or an idol like Arnold, then how are you going to get into it? Because you don't see anyone that has done it, and you don't know what's possible. I don't know. Well, I do know. I think that's it. He says every company is a technology company, and what he meant by that is it's important to embrace, like I said, the trends, but also like the technology to make your company more efficient, more effective. That's important. He says every company is a technology company, especially nowadays. Like, you can't really have a company that's not on social media. You can, but as if it's a customer facing company, you're going to need to interface with the customers.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the business to business companies may work a little differently, but as far as customer facing companies, you need to interact with them. It's part of how the culture is moving. And I think people won't even buy from a company that they can't interact with, unless it's like a toilet paper or your standard like grocery store item. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think in a lot of cases that's true, especially in the fitness industry.
Yeah, where we're at, especially.
So yeah, he says that every company is a technology company, and he also says there's no mature sectors where everything is already discovered, but rather companies or managers with closed minds who resist innovation. So whatever you think, like, oh, this space is too crowded, there's no opportunity, and while it may be more of a challenge to get into, it's not that there's no opportunity. It's that you need to innovate and change the game. I think we said that the other day in the podcast. Change the game. You need to change the game. So that was that point. The next point he says is business is about finding problems and solving them. And that kind of goes back to change the game. Find a problem because they're out there. And he says problems are assets and should be something to run towards. Silence is powerful. Think about it. Problems are assets. Don't hide from your problems. And don't hide from your problems. Don't hide your eccentricities, which means your authenticity. People love authenticity, and they connect with it, especially with social media being such a big outlet for all these brands and influencers and personalities, celebrities. It's authenticity is what people really feel. So if your brand is just a face and it's not authentic to who you are as a leader, it's going to be hard to push the brand messaging. And then if your brand is not authentic to its own vision and method messaging, and you're not pushing what you're preaching, then the customer's going to find out because they're going to feel it. The vibe's going to be off. And then last topic that he covered, as far as what I've listened to so far, because I haven't finished the podcast, is relationships run the world and your reputation is everything. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 years to ruin it. So as we build our reputation, we're still in the beginning stages of it. It's important to be authentic, but not only that, it's important to do the right thing by the customer, by our own understanding of what's right. It's important to stick to our values and ensure that we're putting out the best possible product so that we can build that reputation. And then in 10 years, when you're looking back at this, you're like, dang, they were right. They stuck to their values, and now we got this sick app and all the other things that we're working on.
And we'll have a lot more by then.
Yeah. So yeah, build up your reputation. And then he also said, opportunity handled well, leads to more opportunity. So, we do with what we can with what we got, and we're making the most of it. Spending all our time building up the four walls of our operation center, and eventually that will lead to more opportunity to make a bigger impact in those that we can touch. So that's a little bit of what I listened to today, and happy to share it with you guys, and happy to share what we're working on with you guys. In other news, current events, TikTok's back. And with that, cap cut, which means my YouTube video can make it out. So go back to January and find it. Got anything else?
No, I'm good.
Thanks for listening to my monologue. We'll see you in the next one.
Later.